Hello, happy Friday. I've got a different angle today because I'm hoping you'll be able to see the stove a little bit while I'm cooking this one because it's a little mostly stovetop. I've been trying not to do those types, but we'll see how the angle works. In case you're joining me for the first time, my name is Ashley. I write about food and recipes over at Big Flavors from a Tiny Kitchen. It's bigflavorstinyKitchen.com. Today I'm going to show you how to make my spicy shrimp and Napa cabbage stir fry. It's an easy, low carb, quick dinner that my family really likes. So I'm just going to peel some shrimp while I'm waiting for you guys to come on. I like to get frozen shrimp that's split and deveined. So what that means is these are large shrimp. I have a pound. So this is the shrimp. You can see there's like a slice here, and they've just split the shell and taken out the vein that's in the back. Sometimes you'll see one still in there and you can just use your fingers and pick it out. But all you have to do to peel it is you can just grab the edge of the shell there and pull that off, and then at the tail you can just pinch it. Let's see, get a good angle on that. Pinch it like that and just pull it, and then the whole shell comes off. And if you want, you can save the shells to make something like a seafood stock with some veggies and whatever you have on hand. So I find you can buy them already peeled. It's usually less expensive to buy them frozen. So that's why I like to do it, and I'll keep it in my freezer. And then like what I did last night was I took out a pound, put them in this bowl full of cold water, and then I just, like, this one has a lid, so I covered it and put it in the fridge overnight, and then this morning they were perfectly defrosted. If there's still some ice chunks in there, you can run them under cold water for just a couple minutes, and that usually takes care of it. But yeah, so you can see this one's one that I peeled, and this one still has the tail and stuff on there. This one, I think I came up with this when my husband was doing keto for a while, so we were doing a lot of low-carb stuff, and then I'd make a side of rice or whatever, starchy things for me and my son. But this one was satisfying enough for all of us. And oh, here's an example of if they didn't get the vein out. You can see there's like a dark line in there. It's kind of gross, but you just kind of pull it out with your fingers and put that in the bowl with the trash. It won't hurt you if you eat it, but it's not great. So you could easily make double this recipe, but you would need a really large pan to be able to fit all the cabbage. You could, though, do 2 pounds of shrimp instead of 1. You would just double the marinade ingredients and then serve it with the cabbage and maybe another vegetable or something else on the side. Or you could cook the cabbage in 2 batches. Like, there's a lot of flexibility with this. It would probably be good with chicken also, but you would need to make sure you cook it a little longer when the meat's in the pan so that it cooks through. So once I get all these peeled, I make a quick marinade, and I let the shrimp sit in it while I prep and cook the cabbage. So should actually try to time how long this takes. Peeling the shrimp adds a couple extra minutes, but again, it usually costs more to buy it when somebody else has done the work for you. But yeah, it's all a matter of convenience. I just like keeping shrimp in the freezer because it gives you something easy to work with. Like, you can quickly thaw it. You can just do a lot with it. I keep a lot of meat frozen, and actually a lot of times at the store when you see like fresh shrimp that's prepped at the seafood counter, it's already been frozen and defrosted. So by buying it frozen, you're kind of just saving a step. So it's not, I think there's like a misconception that sometimes it's less fresh if you buy it frozen versus from the seafood counter. So I think I got 2 more in here with tails on. And yeah, you just want to make sure that they are fully defrosted before you cook them, because then you want to make sure they cook all the way through. But you don't want to overcook shrimp. It happens really quickly, but they can get kind of tough if you overcook them. So okay, I'm going to ditch these shells. Like I said, you can marinate, or you can save them to make like a seafood stock. keep my faucet out of the way from this angle. But okay, so I have a bowl that I'm going to make the marinade for the shrimp in. Oh, and just a guideline for you, I use large shrimp in this one. Chat is not working today. I use large shrimp, and you'll see, let me grab the bag for you, hang on. So these are the ones that I got. This was a 2-pound bag, so I just used half. But you'll see on the bottom, there's a number. So this says 31 to 40 shrimp per pound. Sometimes it'll just say like 31/40, and that's how they do the sizing on shrimp. So like a small shrimp, there's 51 to 60 shrimp per pound of shrimp. So the larger you go, the less individual shrimp there are, but the bigger they are and kind of the more substantial it feels. Okay, so, and these are raw. They also sell frozen shrimp that's already cooked, so you want to watch out for that. Make sure you get the raw ones. All right, so in a bowl, I'm going to whisk together honey, soy sauce, sesame oil, and chili garlic sauce. So I've got a tablespoon of honey. And this, it says spicy, but it's not too spicy for my son. I mean, he's adventurous, but he doesn't eat crazy spicy food. He's 7, and he enjoys this. So you can always hold back on the chili if you want. So there's a tablespoon of honey, 2 tablespoons of low-sodium soy sauce. I usually use low sodium for things. You can always add more salt at the end if you feel like it needs it. A teaspoon of sesame oil. I was trying to find this brand to add to my Amazon shop for you guys, but so this is toasted sesame oil. This is a store brand that's like a local store out here in New York. Toasted sesame oil is usually what I use in recipes, and I don't use it for frying because it's already been toasted and it doesn't have a high smoke point. So if you're trying to cook in sesame oil, there's an untoasted kind, but I just don't tend to use that. So it's nice in a marinade. It's nice to finish things off with, but it's not like something you would want to fry and like to heat up in the skillet and fry. A tablespoon of hoisin sauce. Hoisin's just kind of like this thick, it's like so dark in here you can't really tell, but it's just a thick kind of, look at the texture, it's like really thick. It's in a lot of Chinese dishes, and it adds a really nice deep flavor. This has like, it's got a little salted chili peppers in it. It's got like garlic in it, spices. I always love spices on a label because you have no idea what that necessarily means, but it's a nice way, especially if you're doing a quick stir fry, to add some flavor. All right, teaspoon of chili garlic sauce. This is gonna go in with the cabbage also, but this is what makes it spicy. I find this at a regular grocery store. You don't need to go to a specialty market for it necessarily, like if you have like an Asian foods aisle. So this one it says chili garlic sauce up top. It's usually like right near the soy sauce and the hoisin, sweet and sour, the little ramen noodles and stuff. So I just put a teaspoon of it in here, and then I'm going to put more in when you actually stir fry. And then usually, like, my husband will put a little extra on top of his dish. Oh, and grab, if I have any more. I've had a couple people ask about this stuff. I found it on Amazon. I did put the link in there. This is crunchy garlic topping. It's so good, and you can just like scoop it out and put it on top of anything. We'll do it on top of Chinese delivery food, or it's good on top of this dish. And it's not spicy, so sometimes we'll do like a little extra of this and this, or sriracha on top. All right, honey, soy sauce, sesame oil, and chili garlic sauce. So it's gonna whisk it together. It's pretty thin, but you want to make sure the honey gets dissolved in there. And then I'm going to add the shrimp right in there. Start with my hands since I gotta wash them anyway. So you're just kind of tossing it to coat and then let that sit while you start cooking the cabbage. Like right by my sink on this one. I was talking with one of my friends yesterday. We met up in Brooklyn, and she also has a food website and she records videos, and she has a very small kitchen. So we were talking about the challenges of trying to figure out where you're going to put things in there. All right, so now this calls for, hi Ellen. This calls for Napa cabbage. So if you've ever seen it, it's kind of like football shaped. The leaves are a lot thinner and more kind of curly than a green cabbage. If you can't find this, you could use green cabbage, but I find that it will probably take a little longer to cook because the leaves are a little tougher usually, and I don't know, the texture might be different. It would still be good, but if you can find Napa cabbage, I would recommend using that. And then I'm just gonna cut this kind of thinly. Let's see, what do I need? Actually, I'm gonna peel my ginger and then the garlic first because this takes up a lot of room. So 3 or 4 cloves of garlic. There's also garlic in a lot of the other things we're putting in here, like the chili garlic sauce, so we just like things pretty garlicky in my house. This recipe it's been on my site for a couple years now, and a lot of people made it and really enjoyed it, so it's a good one for a weeknight repertoire. I love Napa cabbage. Yeah, me too. Do you have, what's your favorite way to make it? Because I do it like this. I do it in like slaws, but I feel like I could be using it more. Maybe in some sort of wrap situation, maybe. Just gonna mince this garlic. You could grate it if you want. I'm gonna grate some ginger later, so I'm already gonna have my microplane out. Grating garlic kind of makes it more of a paste, so it dissolves faster, but I don't mind pieces of garlic in my food. And I'm going to be using peanut oil to fry. I tend to default to peanut oil when I'm frying things on a high heat because it can take a high heat, and I don't like the taste of canola oil. That's another one a lot of people use. You could use vegetable oil, especially if you have a peanut allergy. I think avocado oil has a really high smoke point. Olive oil, definitely don't use extra virgin olive oil to fry, but you could use regular olive oil, but since we're going to be on a kind of high heat, it might not be the best for it. Okay, so I got that pretty minced, and I'm going to go ahead and get my, I have a cast iron skillet. I actually got this one from Cracker Barrel when I lived in the Midwest, but this is a 12-inch. I don't have a wok. Hi, Amy. I don't have a wok. You could use that if you have one. Those are better on like a gas stove than I have electric. But I'm going to put it on high heat. When I put the oil in, if it's really hot, I'll turn it down a little. But so if you have an electric range, cast iron's good because it'll really retain the heat well once you start cooking with it. Like the temperature won't drop down too terribly once you put colder food in. So that's why I like using that. I do have some green onions also. I'm going to do 4 of them. And I'm going to slice them thinly, but I'm going to keep the light green and the white pieces separate from the dark green pieces, because we'll put kind of like this much on the bottom in with the garlic and the ginger, and then the other will scatter on top at the end. Let me get a scraper. Move my garlic off to the side. My kitchen, I posted on Instagram, my kitchen looks ridiculous right now because to get this angle, I kind of half disassembled my dish drainer, and I have my laptop sitting on inverted quarter sheet pans and a cutting board inside of my dish drainer because it was the only way that I could get it where my head wasn't totally chopped off, but you could kind of see this, and I'm gonna move the butcher block once I start frying, but I can't really do an overhead thing, and it feels weird because I'm talking to you guys while I'm doing this and having, I don't know, it just seems weird, so we'll see. The lighting's not the best, but I'm working with what I have, so. What's that? You like it just like your drink. Oh, awesome. Yeah, stir-fried, I feel like until the first time I had cabbage stir-fried, I didn't realize that would be such a great thing. Like, it's like the first time I had, I think it's called stewed celery. I made it as a side dish for one of our supper club dinners, and I was like, who knew that it could be so flavorful? Because, you know, you kind of think of celery as like something you add to bases for soups and stuff, or you know, something you use with like a crudité platter that often gets overlooked, but it really can be nice. So just kind of like finding creative ways to use things like that is nice. So I'm gonna put just the white and the light green parts in with the garlic here. The pan is getting hot. So that. And then the container to put these up. So before we remodeled our kitchen, which is still small, but before we remodeled it, I would only use this little tiny portion of counter for cooking because we really didn't have much on the other side. We were able to extend it a little bit, but so I got very used to cooking on like 12 inches wide of space, and that's it. Okay. So I'm gonna slice this cabbage. You can go down, like I have the stem end back here. I'm starting like almost at the end there. You can do this just to kind of shorten some of the leaves a little if you like, before you start slicing. So if you look on here, like this is where the one leaf starts. I just slice right in the middle of it kind of. And then just do like cut across, I don't know, like ½ inch thick, an inch thick. This feels hot now. Hopefully the fans won't be too loud, but it's better than a smoke detector going off. So you can see the skillet is smoking now. So I'm turning it down a little bit, and I'm just going to move it a little off the heat until I have this ready. The stir fries move pretty quickly. Oh, I see a flurry of little icons. Thank you. Unless they're the angry face ones, in which case, whatever. And you can see like the end of the Napa cabbage is kind of more fuzzy, and then as you get toward the inner core, you get this like crinkly, more yellow stuff. And you can cut down really until you get to the core. I'm going to stop for now just because I'm running out of room on my cutting board, but you know, there's not much waste with these. Okay, so I'm going to move this so you can see this a little better. Luckily, I've always been pretty good at Tetris, so. Move this. This was one of the first things my husband got me when we remodeled. Our kitchen was a little butcher block, and it's nice because it's portable. Move it where I need it in the kitchen. All right, so we're gonna do about 2 tablespoons of peanut oil in here. And again, any high heat cooking oil will work. And then I'm gonna add garlic, ginger, and then the white and the light green parts of the green onions. What I do for ginger, I've had this bag of ginger in the freezer forever. I just keep it in there, and whenever I need fresh ginger for something, I take it out, and you can, like, if it gets little ice crystals, you can just, like, run it under water for a second. You can peel it if you want. I just grate it. Like with my microplane, I usually don't even bother peeling it, because when you grate it, you can't even really tell. But if you wanted to peel it, you can use a spoon, and you just kind of rub it like that, and it takes the peel right off. You could also peel it before you freeze it. It's papery, it's small, it doesn't bother us, so I usually don't bother. But, so about a teaspoon of it grated. I'm just going to grate it right on top of, tell me if that's too loud. I'm going to grate it right on top of the onions and garlic that I have in here. I've got a scraper so I can put it all in at once. It also grates pretty easily when it's frozen. But I find that way it kind of lasts a lot longer, because while it does last a pretty long time, if you don't use it super often, it can go bad and get kind of like soggy and gross. So I'm just using a microplane. If you have a box grater, you could use the skinniest side of that. So about a teaspoon. And it like kind of collects on that side, so you can just kind of like whack it a little down to get the ginger off of there. And then I just put it back in here, and I put that back in the freezer. So I'm gonna put that stuff into skillet, stir it around a little with tongs, and then once it's fragrant, which is like super quick, then I'm going to add the cabbage in, and then some chili garlic sauce and soy sauce. So it's kind of the same flavors that went into the marinade for the shrimp. Now, can't really see it too well, but it's fragrant pretty quickly, so put this in. It might pop a little because of the moisture in the cabbage, especially if you rinsed it, but it'll wilt down pretty quickly. It smells amazing in here, by the way, though. So you just kind of gently stir it around to get it wilting down. And then I'm going to add in 2 teaspoons of the chili garlic sauce again. In the sink, so I'm going to do 4 halves. And again, if you want to make this a little less spicy, you can either just put this in the marinade and let people add their own to the stir fry, like once they plate it up, or you can maybe cap the amount. It's not super spicy, but it's nice. And then 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. No sodium again. So you're gonna kind of stir it around until the cabbage is crisp tender. So, especially the bigger soft pieces, they need just a little bit of time. You can already see the mountain is kind of wilting down. Oh, a couple of you were asking about aprons last time I was on. I'm talking to the people who did the embroidery for this one for me. I have to look at where to order some aprons for. You want to make sure they're good quality, so like a sturdy one. And I'll let you know when I have some sort of pricing for that because they're not the fastest, but it's like a mom and pop embroidery shop locally, and I really like them. So they did a great job. So let me see if I can bring my laptop over for a second. This might be crazy, but all right. There we go. So you can see it's kind of cooking down. The sauce that's in the pan will reduce. And I've just been using my tongs. Just kind of toss it every once in a while. And you can see like this, like the end bits, that really curly edge is already nice and soft. And these more stocky bits are starting to get a little bit translucent. So alright. So this is just about done already. It really does only take a few minutes. And you could always cut up the end bits that are a little thicker. You could cut them more thinly if you want to make them cook a little quicker, but I kind of like the contrast in textures. Have like a little bit of it, almost like water chestnuts or something when you have those in the mix. Just see. Next Friday I have family in town, so I might not be doing a live. I might, we'll see. But I don't know. It always depends. I don't want to leave her sitting here. Where did I put my platter? Here we go. While I'm plucking my computer. So I'm just going to take the cabbage out onto a platter. It does cook down quite a bit. I made this for my husband's uncle, his girlfriend, and my mother-in-law. There was probably like 6 of us eating, so I doubled the amount, and I just cooked the cabbage in 2 batches. I did one batch because it happened so quickly. I did one batch, took it out, put it on the platter, did another batch, and it worked out just fine. So when you pull this out, see it's really nice, it's steamy hot, and there'll be some of the marinade or the sauce left in the skillet. That's fine because it's mostly the same stuff that was in the marinade. So it's a 1 pan. Well, it's 1 pan, but you do need like a bowl for marinade, which is. I just don't like dirtying unnecessary pots and pans because then it takes longer to clean up. That's out. I have a little bit of cabbage left in there. It's not the biggest deal because the shrimp doesn't take too long to cook. Pretty much with shrimp, you put them in the pan and you just want to make sure that they get pink on one side, and then you can kind of flip them over or just stir them a bit, and then the second side cooks really quickly. Larger shrimp will take a little bit longer than smaller shrimp, but I feel like smaller shrimp tend to overcook pretty easily. So here's the cabbage. I'm just going to move it off to the side. And then, let's see. This says heat another tablespoon of oil. If there's still oil in your pan, you don't need to, but it got a little dry. And then, I'm going to add the shrimp. I'm going to do it with the marinade that's in here. Why not? Bring it over again to show you. Sorry, it's like the best method I have to show you, but so they're going in the pan, and you can see they'll start to firm up. Actually, let's see if I can do here. Let's see. can see these are starting to turn pink on the edges. So I'll just let them keep going and then I'll stir them. Sorry, that wasn't a great view, but turn it back up. I had lowered it to medium high, but now I think high will be all right because it'll cook pretty quickly. So the bottom half of the shrimp has already curled up, and you can see it's pink, like what you think of as a cooked shrimp. The other side's still a little gray, so you want to make sure you wait until it's not gray anymore. They'll feel a little bit firm. The sauce is like bubbling and reducing, and then I just will pour all of this over the cabbage. Just flipping them individually. Oh, I forgot to take the tail off one of those. I'll get them later. And then I'm going to save this, probably all of it, for dinner tonight. So when I reheat it, I'll just do it at like less than full power on the microwave. That way the shrimp don't overcook and get tough. I just had breakfast. I'm not really in the mood for shrimp yet, but they're nice and curled up. Let's see if I can show you. They're all nice and curled. So then all you do, take a platter of cabbage. Get that sauce. Shrimp. And then the tops of the green onions. I usually do some of them and then I serve the rest of this off to the side. And then some toasted sesame seeds. You can buy already toasted sesame seeds, and I usually have those, but they tend to spoil a little quickly. So I'm just going to use regular sesame seeds today that haven't been toasted. You can also toast them in your own skillet. Just have to be really careful because they can over toast really quickly. Or one can pop on your burner and then it'll toast itself. But that's it. That was maybe like 20 minutes, a little, and it's delicious. Low carbs, so you're not like kind of bloaty from all the rice, because I don't know, when I eat Chinese food I tend to pair a lot of rice with it. But I hope you enjoy it. If you try it, I'd love you to rate it, leave a comment on my site. If you take a picture, tag me on social media at Big Flavors, and hashtag Cook Big Flavors, and I will see you maybe next week, probably the week after. Y'all have a great weekend. Bye.